Hey everyone, welcome back. So today in class we talked about typography in Gravit and all the little things you keep in mind when you work with type in a program like this. We talked about point type versus area, a point being where you just click down on your canvas somewhere, you start typing. The bad thing about point type is that you have to manually click enter for your next line of type to begin. And then area type, which you're able to make a box and type inside, and automatically your words will just kind of be pushed into that space. We also mentioned alignment, where we can kind of push our fonts all the way to the left, to the center of our text box, or to the right. But then there's also this idea of aligning to other text boxes or other objects. Right? Let's say you have 3 text boxes and you want them all to be aligned to the top. That's a little different. That's alignment of objects, not alignment of how the type flows. We also mentioned this idea of font weight and style. A font weight could be something like a very light version of that font versus a very bold or black version of that font. It's the thickness of the font. And it's often done in a font family to create like differentiation between the fonts to make things stand out from one another. And we talked about styles, where you can have things in italics, right, Romans. It's just the way the angle of the font is used. Then we also mentioned this idea of auto fit and auto scale. Auto fit, when you click on it, allows you to automatically fit all the words in your text box by just clicking a button. You can do that based on the width or the height. And then auto scale. Auto scale is a little different. When you click on this, what this allows you to do is treat your text box like an object, meaning when you go to resize it, your font will get larger or smaller or taller or thinner. And lastly, we talked about serif fonts versus sans serif fonts. And serifs are little like decorative strokes at the end of fonts. And a font that has that is considered a serif style of font. And the word sans means without. So if a font doesn't have it, it's considered a style of sans serif. Now some people get confused and they think they have to look for a font called serif. It's just like a category, right? For example, the type Arial is a sans serif font because it doesn't have flourishes. But the type Times New Roman has serifs, so that's considered a serif font. Although there are still different types of fonts, right, they fall under those categories. Now today in class, we're going to practice working with typography in Gravit. So first things first, you're going to open up your file and you're going to save it to your cloud. Now once it's saved to the cloud, you're going to see you have 2 pages here on the left, your check for understanding and your main activity. For your check for understanding, we're just going to practice working with some type. The first 2, I've created the type for you, so you don't have to make your type, you just have to edit it. So for example, it says change the block of font below to meet these specifications. It's asking you to find a serif font for this. It's asking that this font, this layout be center aligned, and the font size should be 10px, which just means pixels. So meaning I should take my font, I probably want to highlight this, so I make sure all the font is edited at once. And then I have to find a serif font. And again, I'm not going to look for a font named serif. I'm going to look for a font that has those little flourishes on the end of the letters. If it's difficult to see, you might want to try a few. You can always change one until you find one that beats the criteria. Right? I know my font has serifs because if I look, there's little flourishes at the end. Next thing I want to do is highlight it again, and I want to center align it. And my alignment is located here on the right as well, so I'm going to hit center. And lastly, I'm going to change the size where it says size and put 10. Okay? I'm not going to look for a specific font. I'm going to ask that it's either serif or sans serif, depending on what the question kind of states. Now, the second one is the same thing, except it has different settings. Sans serif, right alignment, 16 points. It also tells you to hit auto size for the height. Okay, so you're going to do that. And then the last one, there is no type for you. This is type you're going to create. So the prompt says to create area type using the following lyrics. So you're going to have to type these lyrics out. Then you're going to do the same thing you did on top here and follow these specifics. So I'm telling you to find a sans serif font, but I want the font weight to be bold. I want it to be centered, right? And you're going to follow all of these. When you're done with your check for understanding, you're going to save it either as a screenshot or export it as a JPEG and put it in the shared Google Slides so that Mr. Tron or myself can kind of see how you're doing, address any misconceptions. Then once you're done with that, you're going to go to the main activity for today. The main activity is here on the left when you hit pages. And you're being tasked to create a graduation invite for a party. Now, for this invite, you've been given a few layout options you can utilize. So a lot of the design part has been taken care of for you. Your real job is to make sure the type is legible. There's a sense of hierarchy, meaning the most important thing stands out on your page, and your type has been edited so that it's legible and it flows well. You're not going to just take this type and slap it on a design. You're going to work with how the type is broken up, really think about what an invite would look like and what parts should be bold, what fonts would you like to use, get really creative. We're looking for holistically well-designed things that are legible, right, are clear in their hierarchy, and work well with the designs you chose. If you want to choose option 1, you just simply click the little I for option 1. You can move these things around how you like it. They're just elements for you. If you don't like option 1, right, you can work with option 2 or option 3. If, let's say, you like a design but you want to add something to it, that's a great extension of some extra credit. You can create some vectors yourself and add them to your design. When you are done with your invitation, you're going to double check your spelling, you're going to double check that you met all the criteria, and then you're going to export it as a JPEG. Be patient. Make sure you're using the side panel here with all the text settings to really make your design work. Good luck.